Hi everyone, it's Melissa over the Creatives Tarot. It's time for some tea time. um, this is not tea. It is actually hot chocolate because it's getting late in the afternoon and I was just digging something sweet. So hot beverage time, but I wanted to spill some tea, give you guys some behind the scenes updates about what's happening with the Creatable Spaces Kickstarter campaign. And yeah, let's just get into it. Also, shout out in the comments if you know what this is from. Yeah, you're my peeps. Okay, so what is going on? Oh my goodness, you guys, what is going on? So for those of you who don't know, I launched a Kickstarter campaign almost 3 weeks ago for the Creatable Spaces Mindset deck for writers. It's a deck of affirmations, and it also has an Oracle section in it, or an Oracle expansion deck that is geared towards writers and other creatives. And I was super excited about this project. I've been working on it for probably 4 or 5 months. So pretty significant amount of time invested into coming up with the idea, designing the cards, researching Kickstarter and learning how to use Kickstarter, advertising and promo, printing, arranging all the vendors, all of that. So it takes a lot of upfront work to do a good Kickstarter campaign. And so I launched it 3 weeks ago, and there's a couple of things that have happened since I launched it that made me realize that I'm not going to be able to implement the project in the way that I want, which is why I ultimately decided this weekend that I wanted to cancel the campaign. I spent a lot of time thinking about it, trying to figure out what the options were and how to best move forward. So if you are coming here from the Kickstarter campaign website page, you already know all this. You saw the update. You probably got a notification from Kickstarter directly saying that the creator canceled the campaign. So nobody was charged, and I did provide some frameworks for like what next steps are. But before I get into the next steps, I wanted to talk a little bit about why. Well, no, let me back up. Let me say, for those of you who don't know the next steps, just to clarify, the deck is going to happen. So you just set your worries and your fears at ease. Like, I've spent a lot of time in the last week trying to figure out how to make sure that I can make the deck happen, because I really need this deck and like my copy of it. And I do think that it's helpful for other people. I wanted to get that out into the world. So I scaled back the project. I've changed printers. We're going to do a limited pre-sale and a much smaller print run. We're going to limit shipping. All of that's going to reduce the cost and the timeline, which is great. And yeah, that'll allow us to deliver a project, but it's not going to be the same project. So let me talk a little bit about why I decided to cancel instead of either pushing to hit goal or allowing it to go to completion and just not be fully funded. So first off is the goal. I do think we could have hit goal. Like, some of the projections were not tracking to us hitting goal, and that's based on like trend lines and looking at how many average donations you're getting or backs and pledges you're getting each day. That was quite low. But I had, I knew I could reach out to specific writers and specific bloggers and other people and get support for the project to get us to that 6,300. The challenge was that the 6,300 was never meant to be a stretch goal. And those are stretch goal moves, right? So I had expected that we would hit the 6,300. In fact, I expected us to hit 15,000 easy. Like that was like a more appropriate range for where I wanted to land. And so I shouldn't say easy, but that's where I expected us to land. And so the vision for the project was always to have the two-piece box, the printed guidebook, 2 separate decks, and I think those were all the stretch goals. So when you're thinking about strategy for the Kickstarter campaign, they tell you to set a goal that is feasible, that you can hit and deliver the project with, but also a goal that you can fundraise fairly quickly, especially in the first 48 hours. And if you fully fund in the first 48 hours, the Kickstarter algorithm just works in your favor. More and more people will continue to back. A lot of people won't back unless it's fully funded already, because then they know that they're going to get that product. It also means like the projects that we love, like they don't often get onto the radar of the Kickstarter editorial team until they're fully backed. Most campaigns, like they've looked over a lot of data. I think the last stat I saw was that 47 or 57% of campaigns fail. So not a lot of campaigns win. You know, it's kind of 50-50, but like not a lot of campaigns are fully funded, one. And they say that 30% on average of your support comes from Kickstarter. The rest comes from your base. As a small creator, I will say that probably 90% to 95% of the Kickstarter, of the pledges on Kickstarter were my contacts, were people that came from my newsletters, my emails, my friend and peer circle and business circle, not people that came from the Kickstarter platform. So we were underperforming in that metric, and that was huge. You know, I think when you launch a campaign like this, what you want is for people like your true supporters to back you in the beginning, so that somebody new coming to the page doesn't see a project with only like 3 backers, right? Like it's to get the momentum going, but it shouldn't be to carry the campaign. And that was my biggest sign that like something was going wrong on the Kickstarter platform, that my project wasn't getting views, it wasn't getting seen, it wasn't getting referred, the traffic wasn't there within the algorithm, and it continued to just stall out. So that was a big issue for me, and something that I hadn't anticipated. You know, I thought we had budgeted for that, and it turned out we hadn't budgeted enough. So the other reason that I decided not to push to get to that 6,300 and say we're fully funded is because the way that I designed the tiers and the reward benefits, I knew that I wouldn't be able to fulfill those with the current printer at that level. My printer has a minimum set of decks that they will print, and we weren't close to hitting that. So that meant that we would be eating up a lot of costs, that people would be essentially paying for decks that they're not getting, that they're not using, to get to the threshold. And we would just end up with all of these extra decks. And that doesn't feel authentic or transparent to the people who paid money for the decks, when then like now I suddenly have decks to give away, or I have to sell them. And like I didn't want to create a store that was selling decks. Like that was never my intention, to be trying to sell, you know, hundreds and hundreds of decks. So that became very clear that like it was going to start costing me money to print these decks for the campaign and fulfill all of the tiers. Also, the Kickstarter money like was to pay for like the work that has gone in. So the graphic design work, the packaging work, the shipping and coordinating the shipping, like all of that takes significant amount of time. And so like that pays for my time and the time of other people who are invested in the project. So it just isn't feasible at the 6,300 mark. Like that goal was always a goal to get us to fully funded so that we could continue to, you know, generate traffic from the algorithm. The reason I decided to cancel instead of allowing it to just not be completed was because it didn't feel authentic. Like knowing that I wasn't going to put any more advertising or promo into the campaign, and seeing a handful of people start to back because we're getting towards the end of the campaign. I just didn't want people like opting in at the last minute and then being really bummed that like we didn't hit the goal. Like it just, I'm always thinking about the user experience and like what I would want as a backer. And I have backed a lot of campaigns on Kickstarter, and I wanted the certainty. And I think some people were acknowledging like, hey, I really want this. And they were starting to ask like, well, if it's not funded, can I still get a deck? Like, what do I need to do? Like, are you going to do it again? And so this just was a way to be really transparent and say like, hey, Kickstarter is not working for us, so we're not going to use the platform and we're going to do something a little bit different. So what I decided to do was to do a pre-sale for the deck and then a limited sales window for the deck. So for everybody who backed on the Kickstarter campaign or was following on the Kickstarter campaign, if you sign up on the pre-order site, you will get a special pricing for the deck as a thank you. And I will be working with a smaller printer who can basically print as many copies as I want, which is really exciting. They are the printer that I used for the prototype decks. The quality is really great. I am testing the boxes and packaging now to make sure that that is also the sort of quality that I expect, but I don't anticipate it that we'll have any issues with that. So we'll be able to get these decks out in a fairly quick timeline, much quicker than the printer I was going to be using. The printer I was going to be using is overseas. And you know, they do these bulk orders, which require like freight shipping, which takes time. And because of the pandemic, like everything is pushed back like 8 to 12 weeks. And so that's really what the biggest risk and holdup was in terms of the project, was making sure that like once we got like proofs of the projects and we knew the packaging and everything was right, like waiting for those products to get made in another country and then to get shipped here and then to get distributed from here, it added a lot of time, and especially because of the volume and the anticipated number of orders. Because we don't have that same volume of orders, now it means that like I can work with a much smaller printer, that I can handle the shipping instead of having a third party, which changes some of the costs. And I'm doing this because I love this deck, right? Like, so I'm willing to like donate some of my time to this project to make sure that these decks get out there, as opposed to having to pay somebody else to manage the shipping. But of course, you know, that means that I may not get the bulk shipping rates that I would have gotten if we had higher orders. So there's a lot of logistical stuff that goes into this. I mean, it's a business, it's like a storefront, and I had to choose the right option. But canceling it and just being clear on like, here's where we're at, here's what I plan on doing, it just felt like the most authentic, transparent way to engage in this kind of decision. I will say that for me as a small business entrepreneur, I try not to fall into the trappings of sort of typical corporate culture. I mean, I've worked in nonprofit stuff all of my professional career, and then having been a creative for the last decade plus, it is just so important to me to make sure that I operate with integrity and I operate with a sense of equality and access, that I am lifting people up, that I'm being transparent, that I am not, you know, I'm staying true to my core values as a person and as a business owner and leader. And when I think about like, as I grow and as I hire people or when I work with vendors, I try to treat them with that same level of respect, compassion, appreciation, and integrity in terms of the work that we're doing. And so it was really important for me to operate the Kickstarter campaign in the same way. The last thing that I will say is like, you can go over to the Creatives Tarot website. It's Creatives Tarot. I'll just drop the link, but it's like Creatives Tarot /creatable spaces. And that will take you to the page where you can pre-order your copy of the deck. I don't have the timing exactly right, because to be honest, like I'm about to go into my birthday mode. My sister's getting married and we're in the last 2 weeks of prep for her wedding. And so that is just taking up a ton of time. Delightful, so happy to be able to do that and spend time with family and loved ones, especially these days. But it means that like I am going to be completely removed from the Kickstarter stuff and the Creatable Spaces stuff during that window. So the pre-sale will happen when I'm back, when I return, and that will be sometime in mid-September. will launch the pre-sale or the pre-sale, yes, the pre-sale, and you'll be able to buy decks. And then I will probably, I'm not sure yet if I'll order, like how many extras I will order. I will order some because I want to do quality control and just make sure that everything that gets shipped out is of good quality. If there's any printing issues, I'll swap those out with extra decks. So there will be some overage. I won't do like an exact print count. But that said, like I'm going to sell some of those decks. They will be slightly higher in price, and when they're gone, they're gone. So if you want a guaranteed copy of the deck, you definitely need to go through the pre-order in September so you can start saving up now. And definitely sign up for the notification form on my website, because that allows me to go in and say, hey, I know how many people want this particular deck. The other big thing that I am going back and forth on is which combo of decks to offer. So we have the Creatable Spaces Affirmations deck with its 45 cards right now, and that's not going to change. We're not going to design or do any new cards. So you can get that deck of affirmations. We had the expansion deck, which is an oracle, an oracle. I feel like there's 45. No, there's 30 cards. I think there's 30 cards now. We were originally going to design extra cards so that the total deck size was about 90. But because of that, like we're not going to design new cards, but for the cards that exist, I think there's 30. Well, I don't know. I take that back. See, this is why I need a little bit of time, and I want your opinion too, because there's a version of this where I hold off on the Oracle deck. We continue to design it, and we relaunch the Kickstarter with the Oracle as an expansion, or we just relaunch the Oracle expansion on Kickstarter or another pre-sale in January. This is not the only deck that I want to do. I do have my heart set on doing a tarot deck, as well as some more writing tool decks that I'm really excited about, but I'm trying to still play test them and figure out like the best format to make them really useful, because there's a lot of writing tools out there that are not useful. They like feel like they would be good, but then when you get them and you try and actually use them in your writing, they just feel clunky or ineffective. And so that is going to be in development for at least probably another 6 months, if not longer. But yeah, that is the plan too. So I'm going to continue to create decks and sell them through the Creatives Tarot site. And we'll see if Kickstarter is a part of that or not. Maybe we'll give it another go. But I will say that when you sign up to reserve your deck for the pre-sale and to get the notifications, you will also have an opportunity to say, hey, I want just the affirmations deck, I want the Oracle deck only, or I want both. And I'm just going to go with like what's the most popular choices, or that's going to help me understand the shipping costs, both from our printer and if I can get any discounts or not based on that. Because when they print it, if I do 2 decks, they have to do it differently. I have to think about if they're going to be boxed together in one separate box, or if I'm going to buy boxes for each one. So, which can also add to the cost, and that will ultimately determine how much I charge. So I would like to keep the cost similar to where it was, or maybe I actually think it'll be less than what the Kickstarter was, because we don't have to pay Kickstarter fees anymore, which is fantastic. And we won't have to pay the same shipping fees. So I do expect the cost to go down, but I also want to think about, I don't want to end up in a situation where we're losing money because of the cost, if that makes sense. This got way longer than I expected. My hot chocolate it's lukewarm chocolate now, but I did want to add that context, and I hope this was helpful for you. I like doing these videos. I know it's a little weird because I'm in the vertical landscape, but I like to share these on the channel, just more informal, where there's not editing and I can just communicate with you directly. But yeah, we'll be back. I have a whole bunch of content for the site planned as well, so I'm hoping that I can do those and stick to shorter videos. I just talk a lot, and I talk a lot because I live alone. So when I start talking, I just keep going and going and going. But yeah, I have a couple of videos. There should be a Tarot Tuesday video out soon, so look for that. And if you have suggestions or ideas of things that you want to see on the channel, definitely email me, DM me, or shoot me a message on social media. That is fine. Or drop it in the comments, y'all. And I cannot wait. All right, take care. Love and light, all the goodness. See my candles back there? Yeah. A little candle, little magical spell work happening. Yay that. I'm thinking about doing a magical Mondays, so let me know if you guys would be down for that, like a magical Mondays where we talk about like some of the things that I do for manifestation or rituals and practices, for people who are beginning tarot, talking about that, what tarot is, how to read tarot, how to connect with your cards, how to cleanse your cards, right? Like, so I was thinking about doing that on Mondays, and it's a Monday, and I'm thinking a magical Monday. I don't know. If you like it, let me know in the comments. All right, like, share, subscribe. I'll see you later. Bye.